So the South African government has said that they are going to create 5 million jobs over the next 10 years. That's 500,000 jobs every year for the next 10 years. This is the decade of employment. So what does all this mean? Well, welcome to iBelieve TV, the show that takes the mystery out of the effects and techniques the media and government use to keep you in the dark. My name is Justin Ballard, and today I'm going to be speaking about employment or unemployment. So, 500,000 jobs every year. Well, can the government do this? You have to understand that the government can only create one thing, and that is debt. They cannot create employment, they can only create debt. That's the only thing that they know how to do. They go to international banks, they borrow money, half of it goes into their back pockets, and the rest they spend into the economy, which they claim then creates employment. It doesn't create employment, it creates more debt, which you then have to pay off. And that's why you're noticing all over the world, countries are going bankrupt left, right and centre because they cannot pay off the debt. Why? Because the taxpayers, you and me, the people that they've put down to pay off the debt are not getting any jobs. So if you're not getting a job, how can you pay tax? If you've not got an income, you can't pay any tax. Therefore, you can't pay off the government's debt. So there's no such thing as the government's going to be creating jobs. It's a complete and utter lie. Now let's have a look at the figures for a second. In 2010 in South Africa, there were 455,000 jobs created. Now, the government said that they're going to create 500,000 jobs. Now, that is not additional. That is not an extra 500,000 jobs. That's the total number of jobs. So, we're only going to actually get an extra 45,000 jobs a year being created by the government. But you'll also notice that whenever the government speaks, whenever you hear Jacob Zuma, whenever you hear any of the politicians speak, they all tell you that we're all global now. Everything's global, you see. It's not just about South Africa, we're all global. So what does that mean? It means that the jobs are going to be created in China, not in South Africa. No jobs in South Africa. So let's just give the government for 1 second the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say they could actually do it. So let's say we have 500,000 jobs being created in South Africa over the next year. So for 2011, 500,000 jobs. Now, the current job loss rate in South Africa is 1 million jobs a year. So 500,000 jobs are going to be created and 1 million jobs are going to be lost. Now, I don't know about you, but when I do the maths, it looks as though we've got a deficit. The education policy in South Africa is extremely poor. And I've spoken about this before, but I'm pretty sure that they still know how to do basic maths, and I'm sure that they're still teaching basic maths in the school. So anyone can work out that if you're creating 500,000 jobs, but if 1 million people are losing their jobs because of retrenchments and businesses closing down, that means we're going to be running at a 500,000 job loss for the year. Now, why is this? The reason why is because the government has made it virtually impossible for small business people to open up their own businesses. There's so much red tape, there's so much bureaucracy, there are so many permits and regulations that you now need to comply with. It makes it virtually too expensive or impossible to comply with all the regulations in order for you to be able to open up a business. Now, this is not by mistake, this is by design. The government wants to have two-class system. On the one side, you're going to have the multi-billionaires, the billionaires club, the trillionaires club. These are the super rich who have everything that they want. They have all the food, all the houses, and all the privileges that they believe they deserve. On the other side, they want everybody to be social welfare. Everybody needs to go to the government and ask the government to give them money, to ask the government to give them houses, to ask the government to give them food. And those are the two classes that they want. We're going into a two-class system. There will be no middle class in the two-class system. You'll either be extremely poor or you'll be extremely rich. However, the rich people have already been chosen. So if you're not a billionaire already, I'm sorry to say, you're not one of them. South Africa has one of the highest rates of unemployment in the world. 74% of those people who are leaving school or leaving university will not get a job. But let me tell you who is hiring, who is always hiring, are the criminal networks. They are always hiring. They are always looking for new people. The crime in the country is increasing on a daily basis. The government can say what they like. You and I know whenever you go outside, you run the risk of being hijacked. You run the risk of having your house broken into. You run the risk of a smash and grab. You run the risk of having your cell phone stolen. The big boys at the top, they don't care. They've got their own private armies. And so as people become poorer and poorer, and as there's less and less jobs every single year over the next 10 years, it means that the people at the bottom, those who are on social welfare, are going to have to start joining criminal organizations in order to be able to feed themselves, in order to be able to house themselves. And who's going to be the target? You're going to be the target, because you're the middle class. You don't have the ability to protect yourself. You don't have the money to hire your own private army. As the years go on, and as the employment rate goes up and up and up, you are going to become the victims. You need to start standing up against the government, because the government's going to take the social welfare population, the people who have nothing, and they're going to be pointing them at you. They're going to be saying, look at these people who are earning a little bit of money. They don't want to pay their share so that you can have a free house. They don't want to pay their share so that you can have better education. They don't want to pay their share. And you as the middle class are going to become the target. The billionaires at the top, they're not going to be the target. And the poor, the lowest of the low, are going to be attacking you. And they're going to be stealing your money, your cars, breaking into your houses. This is the only thing that's going to be increasing in South Africa. But if you want to believe the government and believe that they are going to somehow create all these jobs, well, I will tell you how they're going to do it. You see, this year we have an election coming up and we have a census. So a whole lot of people are going to be volunteering to work at the elections and to work at the census. And that's all going to go down as job creation. So, if you want to work for free, if you want to feed yourself on fresh air, then by all means, you can be happy that the government's going to create a whole lot of jobs in the volunteer sector where no money is going to be paid to anybody and no one's going to be getting any richer, and the government's going to be creating policies where the only thing that's going to happen is the small businesses are going to be shut down and no new small businesses are going to be able to be created. We're going into the highest unemployment rate that you've ever seen. We're going to be going into a situation where there's going to be no middle class at all in South Africa. There's going to be the super rich, the billionaires club at the top, and the super poor, the social welfare population at the bottom who live on handouts from the government. That's the two-class system. The ANC is a communist organization. They might claim that they're not, but the ANC is a communist organization, and that is how they're going to be running South Africa. We're going into a two-class system, billionaires or poor, and they are going to regulate everything out of your hand. They are going to tax you. The price of petrol is going to be going up to 15 Rand a litre this year. That's 2011. The price of food is going to be skyrocketing. You won't be able to even afford to buy meat. You won't be able to afford to buy anything. Every single person in South Africa is going to be living on a handout from the government, because that's the system that they want to bring in. The super poor and the super rich. And that's why in South Africa, right now as we speak, South Africa has the greatest divide between rich and poor of every nation. That's not by mistake, that is by design. The government is bringing in a new system, and you must realize that if you don't start fighting against this government, that you are going to be going down into the poorest of the poor, while they become richer and richer and more totalitarian and more tyrannical. If you cannot see with your own eyes what's going on, then unfortunately you are blind, and you only have yourself to blame when it happens.